JT, I want to introduce you to Carmine Lupatazzi, my co-executive producer on the project.
Nice to finally meet. I heard tidbits of what Chrissy's got in mind, the genre and so forth. But JT, I gotta warn you, I'm very hands-on. I learned that the hard way. I want to welcome all of you to the first meeting of possible investors on this project. Some of you know I've had 9 pictures under my subspecies. 4 in the South Beach Strumpet series alone, each with 30,000 plus DVDs in print. That being said, I usually find it helpful at this stage to include my prospective partners and get your inputs, or notes, as we call them.
JT, you're on.
Well,
He should be terrified.
we've been working on a new kind of slasher film. It takes place in the world of, you know, the mafia.
It's about a wise guy with a big mouth and bigger dreams.
Christopher.
Anyway, they call him the Butcher. And
No, they don't.
Why the fuck not?
Need I remind you of a certain butcher out of AC?
Right. Not Butcher. Go on, JT.
so, right, he's kind of outshining his boss, so the guy has him clipped, but he's still alive when they cut him up.
Oh, he's gonna feel that the next day.
Right. So at the dump, his body reassembles itself, all except for a hand that got crushed. So he ties a cleaver onto the stump, and he goes out to get revenge on everyone, especially the boss, which is a pretty solid role. Right now, it's called Pork Store Killer, but I'm thinking just Cleaver.
I'm confused. You said he's dead.
How's he evening up with anybody? He's a ghost?
As I understood, a zombie of sorts. Great title, by the way.
But if they jointed him, he's not going to end up all in the same dump.
And how's that a slasher film?
What are you talking about?
A slasher. Couple of kids naked in a lake. Certified maniac on
Right.
the loose. Not a
That's
ghost.
true.
Actually, the maniac is almost always a supernatural force. Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers from Halloween.
Get the fuck out.
Easy, Sil, easy. He's making a point.
Michael Myers is an escaped mental patient. Jason and Freddy, different kind of movie.
Well, that's the kind we're doing here. Saw, The Ring, they made millions, and that's not even including the Godfather angle, which we got here.
What if
They're taking this like really personally because
they disposed him at stops that happened to be along the same route? Then he would all end up in the same dump.
But he's a ghost?
Ah.
I don't know.
Ghostbusters, another fucking money machine.
Everybody calm down. Oh, she's finally gonna talk to her.
I must have sounded odd at the supermarket the other day.
A little bit.
Just, you're Tony's therapist. Yeah, whether it's appropriate.
How can I help you?
Well, it's about my son. Well, both kids, really. The situation with the shooting. I'm very worried about them.
Sure.
It's a very serious problem. You know, guns in the home. It's a societal concern. And obviously, we learned our lesson too late. I immediately removed all the firearms from the house after the goings-on at Tony's uncle's. Anyway, last night, I was shrieking at my son. And I said something very cruel. And especially since he has been trying so hard.
How are you doing?
You know, I'm frazzled, certainly, but I am more worried about them. They're not kids anymore. When they were young, you know, there were certain things we could tell them about Tony's life. You know, lies. We'll just call them what they were. But now...
So the issue isn't just guns in the home.
Honestly, I think about my son in front of those cameras, you know, having to vouch for all of this. And my daughter and her friends. They have to face all these years of facading.
They do or you do?
The minute I met Tony, I knew who that guy was. On my second date, he brought me and my mother each a dozen roses and my father a $200 power drill.
Not the typical story of young love.
And I don't know if I loved him in spite of it. Or because of it. And my parents weren't like that. And I knew, you know, whether consciously or not, I knew that behind that power drill there was probably some guy with a broken arm. You know, or worse.
Mm-hmm. And you coped with that how?
You know, I'd go to my priest and I would cry and say how bad I felt about how my husband made his money, but that was bullshit. Because there are far bigger crooks than my husband. Yeah, but the kids, they don't decide who they're born to.
So now what?
Yeah, that's just it. Now
Right.
what?
That's why she's there.
It's all out in the open now, the whole thing. And them, you know, they're not in grade school anymore. They become, you know, the longer they stay with us.
Complicit.
God.
She stayed in it too long with Tony. And it's all catching up.
Putting aside the moral and legal issues, clarity can't be a bad thing.
Yes. Tony's second night in the coma, I told him I loved him. When was the last time I said that?
Are you afraid you aren't going to feel that way when he wakes up? Anthony tells me things have been better between you.